4 seasons appointed by the moon, mainly for growing. The signs are for moving and the seasons are for growing. The words of the Lord Jesus regarding the harvest show that the seasons are for growth. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 to 8 tells us that there is a time to sow and a time to pluck up the harvest. These are seasons. Seasons are for growing. If you are a farmer, you must know the seasons. Would you sow the seed in the winter time or rest in the summer time? The seasons tells us when to plow, when to sow, when to reap, and when to rest. Revelation chapter 22 verse 2 says that the tree of life bears fruit every month. The seasons are appointed by the months, and the months are decided by the moon. We need to read several verses in Leviticus in this regard. These verses tells us that every year in the first month, the people had a feast. A feast is also related to the seasons. The feast in the first month was the feast of Passover. Following that came the feast of unleavened bread, then the feast of the first fruits, and following that the feast of the 7 weeks, called the feast of Pentecost. These 4 feasts came during the first half of the year. On the first day of the 7th month, there was the feast of the blowing of the trumpet, and on the 10th day of the 7th month was the feast of atonement. Also, on the 15th day of the 7th month was the Feast of Tabernacles. All of these 7 feasts were held according to the months. Without a time for growing, you could never have a feast. If there is no growth, what are you going to feast on? At the time of the feast, the people of Israel brought their riches, cows, lambs, grapes, and all the produce which came from the grove. The Feast of Tabernacles especially was a feast for the enjoyment of the harvest. The Lord said that we must come together in His presence and enjoy the harvest. That is a feast. The feast is the result of growing, and this growing is very much related to the moon, the church. If we don't have the church, we lack the element of the feast. Very few Christians have the feast because they don't have the moon. They don't have the full enjoyment of Christ as a feast because they do not have the church. We need the church to appoint the seasons for growing and feasting. Numbers chapter 28 verse 11 speaks regarding the new moon, and Numbers chapter 29 verse 6 says something about the month. These verses are for the months. Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 7 tells of the stork, which knows its appointed flying time. It also speaks of the turtle dove, the crane, and the swallow, which all know their time, their season. The Lord said of His people that they have no season. This is the situation today. Christians don't have summertime or springtime. They don't have the first moon, the last moon, or any moon. They have no seasons, no spring, no fall, no summer, and no winter. In a sense, every day is the same. Therefore, they have no way to grow, and they don't have a feast, all because they are short of the 4th day lights.